and this is the next episode of my training weekly vlog. Today I'm gonna talk again about what happens with my training for the last 7-10 days, something like this, and then also share some training tips with you guys at the end of this video. This week I managed to make 4 pool sessions, 4 dynamic pool sessions. It was 3 intensity training and 1 volume training. Especially 1 intensity training I really like. This is how I wish to do it more often in this period of my training cycle. I did 99 meters 5 times, so this was really good training. 99 meters is far away from my max. This is why there is no strong hypoxia. However, it's definitely a challenge, right? So my contraction starts 20 meters before or something like this, so it's obviously uncomfortable at the end. Because I know that it's not gonna be like super difficult, then I still, even with the discomfort, I still can focus on the technical part, right? And this is what I like to do more on this part of my training cycle. So this was really good, 5 times 99 meters with the rest about 7 minutes, something like this. My plan was to do next training session 110 meters 4 times. However, unfortunately this specific training session was short, and then I managed to do 2 times 110 meters with like 10-minute rest, and then unfortunately we have to finish the training session because I need to teach, because at the moment I'm still teaching. So this was okay. I like to do, I would love to do like more repetitions of 110 meters in one session, but I managed to do 2 times, which is okay. And then my third intensity training was mixed intensity / volume. It was with a monofin. I did 88 meters, 77, 66, 55, and then I think 3 or 4 times 44 meters just for the technique. This one is I also like this one. It is more intense at the beginning, and then slightly intensity gradually decrease, and then a little bit more focus on the technical part. So this training session I also like. And then, as I said, I managed to do one volume training where I did just half an hour monofin training with a short monofin. I was doing like repetitions of 44 meters, and then the rest was 1 minute. Last time when I did the same training, the rest was 1 minute 10 seconds, and it was a complete recover between the repetitions. This time it was 1 minute, and the recovery was still almost complete. Slowly was like a little accumulation of fatigue, but not that much. So this is why I feel confident that the next time I can do the same training with a small monofin with a 50 seconds rest, right? This was my 4 pool dynamic session, 2 times with the bifins, 2 times with a small monofin. Also this week I tested my new wetsuit from True Dive company. This is a really thin wetsuit. I think it is a 0.5 millimeters, like extremely thin. Obviously it doesn't give you any thermal protection, almost any thermal protection, but it's improving your gliding. I never tried such thin wetsuits before. So it was interesting experience. I think I'm gonna go on a competition with this wetsuit. This was my test. It was okay. Obviously for this wetsuit I need to use much less weight for this type of the wetsuit, which is also a good idea. Also, I forget to mention on my last video that part of my weekly training routine is my dry sessions. Ideally, if I'm not teaching, then I usually let's say I finish my pool session and then a little rest, maybe like a little food break, and then I like to do roughly half an hour dry practice. Sooner or later I'm gonna make a video about dry practice which I do specifically for the dynamic bifins, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. But I personally really like it because on a dry land I can still work on both on my technique and I can still work on my conditioning. So I think this is really nice. I think there's nothing wrong with it. Is it dramatically gonna improve your results? Absolutely not. At least I'm not expecting that if I'm gonna do this half an hour dry training more or less every day, maybe like 4 or 5 times a week, is it gonna give me, I don't know, like a 50% improvement? Absolutely not. I don't think so. I don't think this is that much difference. But maybe it's gonna give me, I don't know, like 5% improvement, which is great. If it's gonna be 100 meters without dry training and 105 with the dry training, this is already good. And maybe it's not gonna be 5%, maybe it's gonna be 10%, right? So this is why I like to do this dry training routine. Again, you see some of this dry training footage in this video. Also, I post it regularly on my Instagram. By the way, don't forget to follow my Instagram. I post it there much more often compared to the YouTube. Again, I'm planning to do like full video at least for the dynamic bifins routine, because for the no fin routine and for the monofin routine it's not completed yet, but I feel my dry training routine for the bifins is completed and I feel it's really useful in my opinion. So this is all about my training. I also do like some kind of cardio exercises. I do like racking. This is when I walk in the morning with a rucksack. I use 10 kilograms weight inside, and then I'm walking usually up the hills for about 1 hour, 1.5 hours. Depends how much free time I have in the morning. This is my main cardio. I do sometimes skipping the rope or battling the rope. This is can be another option. Really rarely I do running. Maybe I will try to do it a little bit more often, but at this moment less than once in a week, unfortunately. So the training tips for today is the importance of the intensity training and what I mean by intensity training. Let's say your dynamic bifins maximum 100 meters. If you're just working on the technique and on the CO2 tolerance by doing like a repetitions of the short distances with a lot of rest if you do work on the technique, or with a small rest if you work on the CO2, this is great. I think this is a really important part of your training regime, but it's not preparing you for the long dives, right? Let's say your CO2 tolerance is great, your technique is great, you're planning to do, I don't know, 110 meters, and then you start your swim, maybe your contractions happens at 50, 60 meters, and then mentally you're not going to be ready to keep going for the next 50 meters with the arch to breathe. And when you do intensity training, this is where you do your submax attempts. If your maximum swim 100 meters, then maybe you're doing repetitions of 60 or 70 meters. So at the end of this repetition, you have some difficulties, you have some arch to breathe, but also it's not going to be for too long. This is why you can manage still your relaxation. You can still like have an arch to breathe, recognize that you have an elevated CO2 at this moment, but still be able to relax and still be able to keep going. And then from session to session, you can slightly increase the duration, and you're going to learn how to still maintain your composure, to still maintain your focus on the technique and relaxation, even when the contractions getting a little bit harder, right? So this is why I like to do it. I don't do it too often in the beginning of my training cycle. In the beginning of my training cycle, my main focus is the technique and maybe CO2 tolerance. But now, let's say at the end of my training cycle, if it would be ideal, then it would be occasional still volume training, but more often sub-maximum attempts with not with a focus to expose myself to the low oxygen, but with a more focus to maintain my composure, to maintain my technique, maintain my relaxation, my streamlining, everything, even when I have elevated arch to breathe. But also keep in mind that this kind of training, it is more toxic for your nervous system, more toxic for all of your system, for your respiratory, for your endocrine system, for your nervous system. So it's more toxic. This is why you need to have a plenty of rest between such session. If your life work balance is too crazy, if you're not having enough sleep, if you're not having enough rest, then maybe you do this type of training really rarely, right? Because it is intense for your nervous, endocrine, circulatory, respiratory system, your muscular system, for everything. This was my training tip for today. From time to time, we need to do sub-maximum attempts. Not too often, but from time to time we need to do it. This is it. See you next week.